Someone once said, if I miss a day of practice, I notice. If I miss 2 days of practice, my audience notices. Well, I have missed 2.5 months worth of practicing, and boy, do I notice it. I have not lost all of my technique while I've been moving to my new home here. And welcome, by the way. Welcome to my new house. We're finally settled in, and what a time it has been getting forced out of my other place unexpectedly and suddenly. Where do you go, right? When you're forced to move. The drama, the chaos, the stress. Do not want to live that again. But it's over. I'm settled, and I can't wait to get back to the piano, to practicing, to exploring Mr. B's music, and sharing my ideas and thoughts with you about piano practice and performance. But it's true. If you don't use it, you lose it, whatever it is. And when you practice your instrument every day very carefully, and then suddenly you miss a few days, you start to notice it, right? Let alone an extended period of time. That really does some damage. And in my case, I have been lifting a lot of things, boxes, heavy, I got a lot of books and records. Those things are not light. Lifting all of that stuff and dragging furniture around, and it's been very physical labor, lots of it. Not that piano playing isn't also physical. It is, very much so, but a different kind of physical labor. And because of what I've been doing, my wrists have suddenly become very stiff and wooden. They just kind of want to fall like a dead weight, like a cement block tied to them. Trying to get any kind of elasticity and flexibility, the nice feather-light wrists that I felt I used to have, it has left me. And that does make me grieve. A few things have been making me quite distraught lately. It really has been a difficult time. And I want to thank those of you who have been patient while I get through this mess, because I've not been able to put up videos. You've been so kind with your comments. And, it's just me here, me and my stuffed animals. I'm by myself. And getting those words of encouragement and support really mean a lot. So thank you. And so we're getting back into it. And as I say, I need to get the flexibility and elasticity back in my wrists. So what I thought I would do in this first long form video in my new home would be to just show you my warm-up routine. Now, even when I'm not moving and am practicing on a daily basis, I have a routine that I do every day before I practice. It involves stretches on the floor and then some stretches and various exercises here at the piano. And I've been doing it for about 15 years at least, I think, quite a while. And I feel good after I do it. And so that's what I want to share with you. I'm sharing it with you not because it's attractive to watch. My goodness, it's me on the floor in my track pants, and I'm not exactly svelte and graceful or flexible. I'm no dancer. But, and I'm also not sharing it in the hopes that you will copy what I'm doing. Because as is the case with a lot of things at the piano, including fingering, as we have seen, this is a very personal thing. I'm sharing my warm-up, rather, because I think it's essential for a player to have some sort of a routine that they do before they approach their repertoire each day. I can remember classmates of mine, excuse me, who would get out of bed and go straight to the piano and dive into their Liszt etude and the Beethoven sonata and whatnot. And I was rather appalled. And I don't know if it has to do with having had some sort of somewhat of an athletic background in which I've been taught to stretch before I go on the ice and play hockey or throw the ball or whatever. Before I go golfing, do some stretches. Coaches have told me these things in the various sporting things that I have been involved with, and I suppose that has carried over too. And I think it's good advice, actually, because piano playing is a kind of a sport. To play it well, it's very physical. It's very exhausting. It's hard work. So you may have a routine, and if you do, please let me know in the comments, because I would be curious to hear that. It may involve going for a run and then doing Hanon exercises, or 15 minutes worth of scales and arpeggios, whatever it is. Find something that feels good, so that then your blood is going, the oxygen is getting to your lungs nicely, and you feel limbered up, and your back and spine are nicely aligned, and everything feels loose, and you can dive into the piano swimming pool and swim and be a happy piano puppy. So, without further ado, I'm going to shut up here, because I tend to yammer on sometimes, especially when I'm excited as I am now. It's been so long. I'm going to show you myself on the floor. I'll do a little voiceover to explain some of the things I'm doing, what I'm feeling. And then we'll come back to the piano and I'll show you my warm-up here at the keyboard. So we'll not be going into any repertoire today. That'll be in the next video. This is just my warm-up. Okay, so here you see me on my living room floor, getting down on all fours to do some arching of the back, and then curling the back in the opposite direction, looking to the ceiling when the back is arched, and then looking to the floor when the back is curled. I try to hold them each for about 8 to 10 seconds in general with all these various exercises. And I do them 3 or 4, maybe 5 times each. But because I'm being filmed here, and I've never filmed myself doing exercises, boy, let me tell you, that is something to watch back. Yikes! But for camera's sake, I did speed them up a little bit and do less of them than usual, just because you get the idea. But all of this, what you're seeing, is what I do on a daily basis before I practice, just a little bit more of it. So I spend quite a bit of time warming up away from the piano. I'm trying to breathe deeply through my nose and out, exhaling out my mouth as much as possible. These are the squats that I do. Much of my routine that you're seeing here is based on the warm-up that that we were made to do in the martial arts class that I took when I was about 13 or 14 years old. It was a Korean form called Kuksulwon, and this is in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. I made it to red belt. I had to really work to get to red belt. I was not good at this. Nor did I particularly enjoy it. There's just something about being barefoot with a whole bunch of people, having to make loud sounds with your voice and getting thrown all about. It just wasn't for me, although I liked having the uniform, I have to say. And they taught respect and etiquette, and those kinds of things were interesting to me. In those squats there, you see I had my arms out in front of me. That's something that my dad had suggested I do a few years ago. Much of my athletic interests and passion, I suppose, and for sports, comes from my dad. He's quite athletic. And but as I say, this routine is largely based on the martial arts warm-up that we did all those years ago. That's a long time now, 1991, 92 or so. I even got to break a board when I took that class, and it didn't hurt. It was quite a memorable experience. But a lot of this, or rather, not a lot, some of it I have tweaked to suit my piano needs, because I am not kicking and punching and jumping like you would in the martial arts, or defending myself. I am making music, and so I tried to really focus on getting good breathing and good alignment of my spine. A little bit of what's worked in here, especially in this part you're about to see where I raise myself up. I try to do it slowly, one vertebrae at a time. that part comes from Carol Weber, who was a very fantastic voice teacher at the Eastman School of Music. And I accompanied a lot of her students, and we got along quite well. She just passed away recently. I was very sad to hear of that, but we were close. And she talked about alignment of the spine for singers, and that stuck with me. So I have incorporated a little of Carol Weber's vocal technique into my martial arts warm-up and the few tips and tricks I've received from my dad along the way. So if Dad is watching, I hope my form is okay. Everything I do here, I've done a little bit less than normal because the camera is on and I don't want to bore you. But just know that I do all of this before I practice and then some. I try to hold my positions for 8 to 10 seconds each. I'm not necessarily doing it here, again, because the camera is on, but 8 to 10 seconds and 3 to 5 times each of these things. I'm rolling the shoulders here. That one always feels good. I go both directions with all of these things. I had a student once when I suggested try rolling her head like this, because we did that in martial arts, and she looked at me like I was nuts, and she said someone had told her, you shouldn't do that, that's bad for you. So I don't know. This is not an athletic lesson. This is just a classical pianist who has hijacked a few tips and tricks along the way and is trying to make it work for her at the piano playing Bach. My mom calls this the skier because this part after I do this, it feels so good. My spine feels so aligned. Then I shake my legs out like our martial arts coach always told us. I remember the lady, always shake your leg out after. And I'm doing my windmills, both directions. It's good to do them slowly. I'm doing things a little faster than usual here, again, because the camera is on. This one is particularly hard for me at present. You'll see me pretend to cry. This turning of my wrists. Yeah, the left one especially. I'm sad because of all the moving and boxes I've been moving around and carrying. It's just, there's a close-up. There's just so much stiffness and tension, and I'm desperately trying to get that light feathered wrist, that light touch, the floaty, weightless. There's another close-up with different clothing on. Trying to show you, the more footage there is of something, the more important it is to me, I guess, is the message here. Wrists, wrists, wrists. My playing, my technique, it's all about the wrists, because that promotes good tone quality. It promotes good transportation at the keyboard. There, I'm feeling better now. And it promotes good pain-free posture, and I don't have pain when I play. I'm very fortunate. There I'm rolling the shoulders again. I had to film this warm-up several times, and so, I usually don't do it so much because the lighting was bad and whatnot, and I'm still getting my bearings here in this new place. And after all of that, I finish up my away from the piano exercises by doing just some straightforward stretches on the floor. I take my slippers off for this. Hey, there we are. And again, this is one that the martial arts coach had us do as a group. There's like 20 of us, all in rows, all doing this, and everyone's sweating. Oh, it was a lovely experience. I think that's why I kind of liked playing ringette, which is like hockey, because we were like under all that equipment. So like it was like some distance between me and the other humans in a way. And then I pull my feet in as close as I can and push my knees down to get a good stretch. Try to keep my back straight and inhale, hold it, exhale, and after you've done a few times, jiggle your knees so they relax. And when I watched this, and as I was doing this exercise, it reminded me of this contraption, looked like a torture device that we had at the martial arts place. And I'll put a picture on the screen. It was called the leg stretcher. Oh gosh. People always made fun of me. Even our elderly, well, he wasn't to me at the time as a 14-year-old, he was elderly. He was probably like 50 something. But the teacher, he would always kind of make fun of me because I was so stiff. I was stiffer than him. 13-year-old girl was stiffer than the 55-year-old man teaching the class. I've just never been flexible. I just blame it on the length of my legs to length of my torso, right? We'll just blame it on that. But I don't have pain, as they say. I feel good. I do one leg at a time here, pulling up the knee of the one that's not being stretched. I'm stretching my ankle there too. We did that in martial arts class. I've eliminated plenty of the martial arts warm-up exercises. Of course, there was much more jumping. There's no cardio here, except for the squats at the beginning. But I get the cardio from other things. I like going for walks, and now that I live close to the water, I go for bike rides, and so we get our exercise there. And then finally, just with both feet out in front of me, pulling one set of toes toward me while I push the other forward. And then back, I'm trying to support myself upright with my hands behind me there. More circles with my wrist. We're doing our best. And that's all I got. Let's get back to the piano now. Have I got a wave for you? We're wrapping it up here. Hey? Yes. Let's go back to the piano. Whew, feeling good. Okay, so we're back at the piano. We've warmed up on the floor. And I'm going to just go through what I do every day when I practice, but have not been doing lately. And boy, do I feel it. So after those stretches, I do a few more of these. These feel really good. The windmills with your hands especially. And put some muscle into it, like from your upper arm, not just loose like this, like lock your arm on the side of your body and just kind of haphazardly flail your hands about and then go the other direction. That's of no use. Put some muscle into it, and really the analogy I like of the melon ball scoop or the ice cream scoop. You're scooping in for a nice scoop of ice cream, and it's frozen. It's not melted. You got to kind of work to get that nice first scoop. It's that similar kind of gesture. So I do some of that, and then I take a cluster, a 5-note cluster. I'll just start on C. So I got C, D, E, F, G under my hand. My fingers are curved, and I'm going to just, keeping the keys down and sitting upright, I'm going to drop my wrist as low as it goes, so it's touching the key bed or the key slip, this part of the piano. So the palm of the hand, the base of the palm of the hand is touching the key slip. And I hold it for a second or two, and then slowly raise that wrist joint. And I bring it up as high as I can go, still keeping the keys down. I'm not concerned that my fingers are, not in a typical hand position. This exercise is for the wrist, which in my case at this moment really needs it. This was extremely hard for me to do for the first few years or so of doing it, especially in my undergrad. I remember my teacher giving me a similar exercise because what I wanted to do was to raise the wrist via my shoulder. Because if you lift your shoulder, yeah, the wrist does follow. But we're trying to get independence of the wrist joint, which in my case, from lifting boxes, has kind of become immobile and stiff like a brick. Oh, so drop it there and keep your shoulders in a natural position wherever they happen to be naturally. You could even take your other hand and just put it on your shoulder so that you monitor. And if you feel that your shoulder raises, then just, give yourself a pat and say, hey, shoulder, get down there, buddy, kind of thing. All right, so let me do it again. It's down. And do it slowly. No need to rush through this. The slower, the better. Because it's not just for the body. It's for your eyes, too, to watch and to monitor. Because if you're doing this and you notice some sort of a jerky bump or gesture along the way, then you need to slow down, go back, and try to remove that. Get it so that it's just like a teeter-totter going up and down. It's been nicely greased. It's not squeaky. Someone got out the WD-40. You can think of your wrist like a hinge even, and we don't want rusty hinges. You got to grease them, oil them once in a while. So I suppose we could say that this is kind of the equivalent to giving your wrist a good oiling. So once you've went up and down like that a few times, then I like to do a lateral circle, this kind of a shape, and always away from the body. So my right arm and hand, to go away from the body means I'll be going in a counterclockwise gesture. And again, this is coming from the wrist, not the upper arm moving for the wrist, which is much easier to do. That's why it's so hard to just get the wrist to do this independently, and the arm will follow. That feels pretty good. This is my third day of practicing since I've moved. So it's already feeling better than two days ago or so when I first did this. All right? If you want, you can go the opposite direction, but I think away from the body is the most beneficial. Then you do it with your left hand, of course. Cluster of 5 notes. And actually, if you're a teacher or a beginner player yourself, you could do these exercises. You could have your beginner students do these. Raise the wrist. I'm not going to go through the whole routine again, though I need it. I'll do that off camera, but I just wanted you to see this part of it. And of course, the circular gestures in the left hand going away from the body will be in a clockwise direction. This is actually feeling a lot better than a few days ago, I have to say, so that's good. And then I do some more of these in between. Then I like to take some of these exercises by Ernest van Dafnanje. He was a composer and teacher, and I stumbled upon them a few years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, when I was reading some of Rosalind Turek's writings. She was a fabulous Bach pianist, fabulous pianist in general, but particularly for Bach's music. And she recommended these. They're called the Essential Finger Exercises for Obtaining a Sure Piano Technique. And I have not went through all of them. There's a lot here. I just really concentrate on the first 11 of them, which involve diminished seventh chords, 5-note diminished seventh chords in both hands. You can do one hand if you want. Similar to what we just did in that we hold all of the notes down. And then these exercises help with finger independence and strength. So I'm going to let me do a couple of them for you. The ones I do the most are numbers 9 through 11. 9, 10, and 11. So number 9, I'll put the sheet music on the screen here. They don't sound the best, so if you're in an apartment with a keyboard and a bunch of neighbors, then maybe put your headphones on. And it's important to play these very deep into the key to get the strength of the fingers from these exercises. They're very rich and beneficial, but you got to do them deep into the key. And then also lifting the finger very high up in between, a kind of a high finger. Combined, of course, with good release from the arm and the upper arm, so that when you go to play the chord, there's this kind of a gesture, as opposed to just coming down, throwing from your elbow kind of thing, but moving again away from the body. All right, so let me take number 9 here. We got a diminished 7th chord, C in the bottom. 3 octaves apart here. I'm just stopping because I know it's loud and it's not pretty to listen to. Then you hold the next note and you do more of the same. Carry on with each finger, then the 3rd finger. I'm doing these super slowly, so that my whole body can be engaged in the act of producing this deep, full sound. These, because they're 5-note chords, after you do, say 5 or 6 minutes worth of them, 5 minutes, you'll feel, you almost feel like you could lift the piano. You just feel so strong and woken up physically. They feel really good afterwards. If you're a beginner, do not do these exercises. If you're intermediate, most likely stay away. Some of the early ones in the book, perhaps. But these other here, 9, 10, and 11, I would say, for advanced players, do them. And do them very slowly, deep into the key, with good release and engagement of your upper arm, and a loose wrist as well. Let me take another one. That's one of the harder ones here. I'm going to go let's do number 11. They're all different combinations of one finger getting held down while the others work, then another finger, or 2 fingers getting held down while the others work. They're very, very rich piano vitamin exercises. So I do several minutes of that, and you can see too that I'm quite leaning forward quite a bit in my so-called usual performance posture, which I'm not in when I'm doing this opening wrist exercise, because this is purely just to get some flexibility of the wrist. But doing these chords, these exercises, I consider it playing. It's not music, but I'm playing, and so my whole body is involved. The last thing that I do are some double third scales. Now, I never had a teacher require or even give me double third scales, so I never learned a particular fingering or how they should be played. But I've always been interested in Theodore Leschetizky, and I had some of his teaching books, or things that his students wrote about his teaching, and I saw his scale fingering for double thirds, and I thought I would try it, and it felt good. So I really don't practice normal scales anymore. This kind of thing. It's just not very useful for me at this point. But the double third scales is like double your fun. So I go through each of the 12 keys. I just do major. I do slowly first, slowly with a very pointed staccato, a very forte staccato. And back down, and I'm concerned with equal touch and tone from both fingers in each hand. That's what these are, double third scales. So you got it's just two notes at once per hand. And once I've done that through all the keys, here's another one: D flat major. With these staccatos, there's a bit of a flick, like imagining you had a piece of lint or dust on the key and you're flicking it. But combined with that, there's also a little flick of the wrist. And once the wrist has flicked itself, then the arm just very quickly and minusculely releases away from the body. The hand is doing a kind of a hand toss. Like if your hands are wet, I always use this analogy with students. Your hands are wet, you're in the shopping mall in the bathroom, and there's no paper towel to dry your hands, so you just have to kind of air dry them. That toss of the hand. Try to get comfortable doing that, and you can do that away from the piano. Or even on your lap, it won't hurt so much. And try to get that ricochet. I've talked about it before. Maybe you can hear it if I do it up close to the microphone. That little second bounce there. It doesn't have to be a something that makes sense musically. We're just trying to get the gesture, that toss of the wrist, a very natural toss. I've lost a bit of that with moving boxes and all of this stuff I've been going through. So that's something I'm working to get back. And then once I've went through all of those 12 major scales, double thirds, forte, staccato, very slowly, with eyes on both hands, looking very carefully. Sometimes I look at the reflection too. If you have a reflection, that can be helpful. Not for like admiring yourself, but for just looking at your hand shape, your wrist, and making sure that you're making good contact in the heart of the key area, kind of in the center of the key there, close to the edge. Then once I've done that, you pick the tempo up a little bit. And for that, I'm not doing them staccato. For that matter, they're not exactly legato either. But for me, this feels good. I try to maintain that same toss of the hand, but staying closer to the key. Noting which places there may be a finger that does not speak, like usually when there's a crossover. like 3 crossing over the thumb kind of thing. Sometimes that won't sound. So listen carefully for those things. And then if you hear it happening, then stop, go back slowly, do it again, clean it up. You can always go back to the forte staccatos and then pick it up again. I'm still out of it. My technique is still, I got to get it back. My right hand feels okay, but my left hand not so much. So what I need to do is to go back and play them forte staccato very slowly. And then try picking it up. That feels better. And when you approach these double third scales, approach from above the key. And not just randomly like that, but with the whole body, the torso, everything prepared, which means you actually have to hear the pulse before you start. 2, 3, and 3, and 3, and. So on the and, if on the and, 3, and, or 4, and, whatever you're counting it in, that and of the last beat before you come in is when your torso and your upper body are like diving into the pool, right? This kind of thing. So that is it. That is what I do. The double third scales, the wrist exercises. Sometimes I do some exercises by Alfred Cortot as well. I'll show that book on the screen here. But it's largely these Dafnani ones, which are excellent. And then I'm ready to get into the repertoire. But we won't be doing that today because this will be far too long of a video. So that wraps up this first long form video in my new home. And I will be doing this very same routine day after day for the next little while, getting my technique back. And as I say, leave me a note in the comments. If you have a routine, if you do Hanon, or you like scales and arpeggios, or maybe you have some Philippe exercises or Liszt exercises. There's all sorts of exercises. Let us all know. We can learn from each other here. Okay? So without further ado, I will wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this difficult time. Brighter days are in store. Happy practicing to you. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon for more performances of Bach's music and practice tips. Take care. Bye-bye.